Hey there, and welcome to a brand new segment on the podcast I am so excited to introduce. And for now, I think we are going to call it Trend Talk. This is where I am going to break down what's hot on Etsy right now so you can stay ahead of the curve and keep your shop fresh, relevant, and profitable. Let's be real, Etsy trends move fast. What was selling like crazy a few months ago might be totally fizzling out already. But when you know how to spot trends early and tweak your listings accordingly, you can tap into buyer demand at just the right time. In today's episode, I'll walk you through the biggest trends I'm seeing, the keywords gaining traction, and some design tips to help you make the most of them. If you don't have the tools, time, research, or know-how to find trends, you'll have a list of specific, data-backed trends you can jump into by the end of this show. But before we get into the specifics, let's talk about how to actually analyze the big picture trends. Because it's not just about what looks cute or what's selling today. There are three main ways to think about trends strategically. And once you understand these, you'll start recognizing patterns and opportunities within your own niche. Make sure you stay tuned until the end of this episode where I'll be sharing a bonus new opportunity that I've seen on the Etsy platform that I only noticed in the past couple of days. I haven't heard anyone talk about it yet, and I think if we are early movers in it, it could be a great opportunity. So now let's get into it. I like to utilize a three-tiered framework for looking at big picture trends when I'm starting my market research on Etsy. The first is to get an overview and a feel for the aesthetic trends. This is going to be the look, the feel of all of the trending designs. This includes color palettes, typography, different patterns, different visual themes. Are people liking minimalist? Are we liking bold colors? What fonts are trending? What style elements are trending? Are there certain shapes or layouts that we're seeing over and over? This is actually something that I can get so into the weeds on having fun with keyword analysis that I forget to take a step back and look at the visuals and try to establish what patterns I'm seeing within the aesthetics. And most of these specific real-time examples that I am going to show you today are going to fall into this category of aesthetic trends. The second way we can look at the big picture trends is to look at the products that are trending. These are going to be the types of products that are gaining popularity. And we can peel that apart by looking at whether they're physical or digital, or you can go deeper down into your niche specifically. Let's say, for example, you have been selling digital reward coupons and you start doing research and you are seeing that now people are actually wanting reward bucks, reward stylized money for kids for chores. You take your coupons and you pivot into that section of rewards. Or maybe they're doing certificates. Maybe they're looking for printable potty training charts. There's going to be something that can still fall within your printable child training reward incentivization niche that can pivot you into what is starting to trend now, live time. Now, on the flip side, physical product sellers, especially in the print on demand niche, might spend less time getting really into the nitty-gritty about product trends because, let's say, for example, we're focused on that popular Bella Canvas t-shirt or the popular comfort color t-shirts, and we're trying to stay in our lane with one product at a time. If you know you're already in a popular space there, you might spend less time looking at emerging products unless you plan on starting to hand make your own other items on the side. Then the third and final way that you can break down these big picture trends are to look at consumer behavior overall. This really gives us the why behind several of the trends. What's driving consumer demand, seasonal shifts, or changing in shopping habits? So for example, if we're seeing a lot of changes into eco-friendly gifts, this might be because there's a broader macroeconomic trend for consumers being interested in sustainability, being green friendly. Or if we're in a downward economic recession, we might start seeing a lot more searches and a lot more interest in budget friendly giftable options. So, knowing what's happening big picture in the economy, around the globe, seasonally, anything like that that can help give us not only the what is changing, but the why can help us further define the trend and be able to take it deeper or take it into another level as an early mover. So I may not cover all of these in every episode. In fact, I definitely won't, or the episode would never end up airing because I'd be eternally talking. But they are 3 ways that I wanted to make sure to give you as a framework to start building up your mental archive and utilizing as you start doing your own research and then designing your own products. Now for the fun part where I am going to show you exactly what themes, trends, aesthetics, etc. I am seeing live time today while doing my own product research. A quick note or reminder for many of you who already know and abide by this, but I always want to make sure to clearly state we are not looking at this research to copy other sellers. We are not finding best sellers to knock them off or to make something that looks almost the same. We are looking at these to understand trends, understand themes, color palettes, and figure out how we can apply these concepts into our own product line. So what's trending today, end of February 2025? Today, I am looking at PNGs. So if you're not familiar, PNGs are just a digital file type, just like you might have JPEGs on your computer. But instead of a classic image file like a JPEG, which your computer might automatically save a photo as, PNGs keep everything high quality. So whether you're selling something as simple as clip art or something like a large scale banner, you are not having customers complain that anything is blurry, whether they're having it printed themselves or whether you are using a print on demand partner. PNGs also allow for you to have a transparent background, which is why we'll see PNGs as the popular file type for Etsy digital clip art sellers. So a few reasons that I am going to look at PNGs today. First, selfishly a little bit, I make and sell them myself. So I'm actually doing this research live time and have just decided to record alongside to hopefully help some of you brainstorm your own trends, whether you're in the PNG niche or not. PNGs are also easy to batch create and list quickly for similar themes and styles. So if you get an idea and you decide you want to create PNGs for Easter, you can sit down and use one certain style to create an Easter bunny, a baby chick, some Easter lily flowers, and a basket of Easter eggs, and provide a PNG clip art bundle online as a digital product same day. The other reason I like to look at PNGs is because from a research perspective, often these sellers are selling to other makers. And they're selling to other store owners who are making the physical products with those designs. So the sellers that are selling PNGs actually have to be ahead of the curve, even more so than the physical products in most ways. If you think about, for example, PNG sellers creating ideas for Mother's Day gifts, or maybe a Mother's Day card even, those sellers have to be earlier movers into the Mother's Day space because their buyer is going to be perhaps let's call it a greeting card store owner who goes in, buys their PNG, and still needs time to create their cards and get them on their shelves for their customers before Mother's Day. So sometimes you will catch the best sellers in PNGs that are being purchased, especially the ones that are allowed to be used for commercial use and print on demand. Suddenly, in a month or two, you'll see best sellers in sweatshirts, t-shirts, apparel, giftables with that exact design. And of course, PNGs are typically going to be lower cost items. They're usually only a few dollars. They are a digital product. So therefore, we might potentially have more data because there might be more impulse buys. Customers might go through and say, hey, I need to buy myself 10 different designs for Easter. Or they might be looking at Easter, be in somebody's shop and see something completely random that they say, oh, that's going to hit my target customer. I'm going to pick up that too. And I'll show you an example of that and why my brain went that way in just a minute here. So now it's time for the fun part. I'm going to talk through the exact trends that I see. Now, if y'all decide that you do love these Trend Talk episodes, let me know. And they're not going to start with this whole intro each and every time, but I did want you to make sure you understood what we were looking at, what we were analyzing, and why before I just hand out the answer key to the test. That said, I won't spend nearly as much time on this part of the episode. I'm not going into so much of the how and why. I'm just going to talk through it so you can get the ideas into your mental archive as well. So here we go. I am logged into Etsy. I am in my account. I am on Chrome and I do use and love Everbee for competitive research. So you'll see that on the left here. But if you don't have Everbee, that is okay. We are not going to use that today. As I said, I am searching for PNGs today. So I already have that typed into my search bar. And I've already sorted by best seller. There's a secret little hack for that. You can jump onto YouTube and find that. I can also go ahead and create another video for those of you not familiar. I already have all of this sorted here, and I've also filtered out anything that would have been a physical product, so I'm only looking at digital download best-selling PNGs. So since I have been doing this research for the last week and even several hours already this morning, I might be jumping around a bit, but I want to show you specific examples of what I found as I talk through the trend. So we're just going to jump right through and speak to the first thing I noticed was that visually, this structure, this layout, you'd say, seems to be popular right now. Now, these two are ads, so take that with a grain of salt. And I'm not going to click on those links just as a respectful Etsy seller myself. I don't want them to get charged for ad fees, but you'll see that you kind of have 4 paintbrush strokes across the entire horizontal chest of the shirt, and they're filled with watercolor images. And these two examples are done completely differently, but they both have that same visual layout, that same structure to the design. The first one is baseball themed. It has watercolor elements, and each one of the 4 strokes is a different color or a different set of baseball images. And it has a fun game day text below it. Now, this other image also uses kind of these soft pastel watercolors, but it looks like one singular image that is shown in 4 different panels. And it also has text, but it is going with a much smaller minimalist text and looks like it is in the religious Bible scripture niche. So these are 2 examples of a trend that I have seen on a broader scale outside of the ads, and they're in different niches, different themes, different styles, but they are keeping that 4-tiered paint stroke aesthetic. In terms of layout, we do continue to see some popularity in shirts that are just the coquette bow as a single, no words, no other font, text, anything needed. And we'll scroll down up. Here's another example of the 4-panel layout. Let me see if I can find, there's another 4-panel layout. Here's the other layout I wanted to show you that this has been popular for a bit and I'm seeing less of it, but I am still seeing plenty of it to consider it a popular trend, is the 9 square, 3x3 coquette style something. So in some cases, it is 9 of the exact same thing, but in different colors, like the Andy Warhol pop art style. Or in a lot of cases, it's mixed in with these coquette bows, exactly like we're seeing here, where we have baseball and this vintage baseball mixed in amongst 5 coquette bows. We are still seeing a lot of layout like that. So if you have anything, no matter what your niche is, there's probably a way that you can incorporate this type of structure into it. And here's another one of those examples in the 3x3. Again, these are just PNGs. These are just designs, but these are popular now designs. They're showing up with bestsellers, and that means that we can expect to continue to see them on the physical products as well. We are also still seeing stacked and repeated text like this mama over and over again in varsity style, but with a bow on top of it. And just to the right of it, we have Lucky, which is in a different font style. It's in that doodle font that you can plug in Canva, and it has a shamrock on top of it. So again, very different niches, different holidays, different themes, different colors, but the layout is showing us that it is trending. Here's another one of the similar look, game day, game day, game day. And we are still seeing this, I call it a layout design because it is this rectangle with boho shapes inside of it. But the boho isn't all florals. Like, this is a really cute version, making it baseball themed, floral. Within that, correct me if you are an art major. I have no art history background whatsoever. Is it Matisse? I've tried to look it up myself, but everybody says something a little bit different. But in this very clear layout that you've seen over and over in different niches, but done with a fun, unique twist within the baseball niche. So that alone was I think 4 layout specific, that if we take a big step back and look at the broader picture, we are not even talking about the niche, the colors, the anything. We are just showing how the designs are laid out before we even sit down with pen to paper. So that's layout. Let's jump into themes. Themes, we are still seeing a lot of silly, funny animals. So the goose theme, the frog theme, there are still raccoons trending, a lot of the silly goose, a lot of the unhinged feral animals are popping up. The obvious overarching themes seem to be florals, springtime. Of course, that means Easter, and that means baseball season. So there is a lot of Easter, a lot of baseball. And another one that I didn't even think of, but has been a popular niche in general, but I think March maybe, is Mental Health Month. And so now, even though those were already popular, we're also seeing an early rise in PNGs for the mental health niche. So struggle bus, anxiety, overstimulated, all of those themes I expect to see grow even more than they have in the past few months. Here we go, another grumpy, retro-looking raccoon. Speaking of retro, let me talk retro for a minute. That, of course, continues to be popular, and I'm seeing retro done in a couple of ways. Retro, of course, you can do like vintage style. Now, I would be careful about saying the word vintage in your title. I know that that's the type of design. I would just be very cautious about it because Etsy allows sellers to sell actual vintage physical products that are, I think, 20 plus years old. So I try to not use that word if I'm not actually selling a physical vintage item, which I never do. So take that with another grain of salt. But retro can be done that way, or we are seeing a lot of checkered. The black and white checkered seems to be what I think is starting to arise as the newer modern version of retro, whereas the past year or two has been more of blocky, big, groovy letters, but in fun, multicolored text and surrounded by extra stars, hearts, fun accessories. And you'll see that we do have a bestseller here on page 2 still. So that is still showing up and trending. But if you are catching on to what I'm looking about, even just quickly scrolling, we're seeing a lot more checkered in the mix. So checkered on the cherry, which was the Pinterest trend we talked about in an early episode of the show. We've got mama with the checkered print. We're seeing that a lot more. And you are still seeing kind of that groovy retro font, but it is used in very different way. Here's another example of that, what I called Matisse layout that I could be very wrong about, which again is niche hopping. The first one we saw was baseball, and this one is Happy Easter. So super different niches. Here we're on page 3. We are still seeing baseball, and all of this is popular now and best-selling. So if you can get yourself into a baseball niche or add something baseball-esque to your line, this is a great time for that, because it is showing us consumers are purchasing digital items right now to add to their collection. So I expect physical items are right around the corner, if not already. Check out another one of these 4 paint stroke He Is Risen PNGs. So again, in a religious niche. Scrolling down, there's more of the checkered pattern aesthetic that we're seeing. Some checkered coquette bows. Here are some more funny, ironic animals in this retro sketch aesthetic. So now that I've kind of given a name to the trends or to the style or to the layout, maybe that can help you see it more as you scroll through. Let me know if that helped, because I've heard a lot of people talk about trends and trend analysis, and again, having no graphic design or art skill of my own, I did not know how to do much other than look at these and say, that's attractive, that's not. Or I could look at the data and tell you what's selling. I could maybe tell you why, but I couldn't quite verbalize what it was about the products until I sat down, compiled hundreds, maybe thousands of listings, and truly made myself almost go back to grade school thinking and look at each one and say, what is similar? What makes this like this? Why are these selling better than these other things? What's different? Now, we have already gone on longer than I intended to, and I could keep scrolling forever, which is why I always have to remind myself the wise words of Cassie Johnson, who is a hugely popular YouTuber and pro Etsy seller. I will link her channel below. This is not endorsed by her. I haven't met her, but all of her advice is absolutely phenomenal. But the piece that I always have to take away, and my part of the journey, is to have a bias towards action. Again, that is fully her quote, but I need to sit down and actually make the designs with these trends I'm sharing with you. Even though I personally often have more fun finding the trends, hopefully you're having fun hearing about them. And maybe I can sway more towards that in the future. Maybe I'll just share them with you and then celebrate your wins rather than my own. So I talked retro, I talked the checkered, which of course here it is, this Matisse-esque boho shape, structure, layout, floral. And I'd imagine you'd hear this everywhere, but I'd be remiss not to mention coquette and the coquette trend, which has really exploded because of the bows in different styles. A lot of the preppy vibe, preppy type keywords around that. But now we're also having another expansion of the coastal cowgirl / fisherman aesthetic. We're seeing a lot of blues, a lot of water, a lot of kind of East Coast vibes across the board, which I'm not seeing in the PNGs today, but there you go. There's a bonus that I know from my other research. And that's being all tied in with this chinoiserie, toile du joie, a little grand millennial. It's kind of this blue wallpapery type aesthetic. Coastal grandma, coastal granddaughter. All of those words are exploding, and you can tear them apart and categorize them into their own little niches. But I see that as a huge trend overall. So while there are differences amongst them, ultimately what it comes down to is whatever I'm looking at tends to start having some of these same line, hand-drawn looks to them, a lot of blues incorporated, and we're still going to continue seeing the coquette trend, but jump on some of these bonus keywords that are hitting the market now that sellers are learning, or these smart and well-researched sellers are learning. And that way, when the customer starts learning and understanding that's what they're looking for and starts utilizing those words, you will be ahead of the competition and you'll be able to capitalize on that new influx of customer demand and customer volume. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention the very first thing I wrote down for myself when I was actually doing this morning, behind the scenes, not even planning on recording a video, is, I'm going to call it the return of, because I saw a lot of it hit at Christmas, but I haven't seen a lot of new listings yet, is the brushstroke dynamic. Where did it go? Oh, like this Easter bundle, where it is these bright, fun colors, but it looks like somebody took thick classic paint, so not a pastel light watercolor, but a vibrant, fun, playful brushstroke effect within the different shapes. So here's an Easter bunny and a carrot, but I also saw this a little bit in use in this cross, so the religious niche, even though it's done a little bit differently there. This is brushstroke on this coquette bow. And then, of course, they've incorporated some other trends. So they are trend combining, which is what we want to do to really get bestsellers. But I wanted to call out that brushstroke pattern and color effect. And oftentimes these brushstroke designs are pinks, greens. There's a splash of gold or something glittery. This Feelin' Lucky sweatshirt is another layout of social club designs that we are seeing everywhere. Wasn't even going to talk about that one today, but clearly they are having a popular hit by carrying that over into a holiday niche. There we go. This is kind of that perfect example of chinoiserie or toile du joie or coastal grandma, coastal granddaughter, grand millennial effect. All of these keywords have been mixed and matched into items like this, designs like this, color schemes like this. And then, of course, coquette, preppy, there's your bow. That's going to be what we see continue to explode throughout 2025. So don't just do mama, don't just throw a bow on it, don't just make things blue, but figure out what you can do in your product line to incorporate this dynamic, because we are going to continue to see a ton of it. And another thing that I realized I didn't call out because it's obvious to me at this point, but that's not necessarily where you're at. But we continue to see so much popularity in the country western niche. So here it's country western camo style bunny. So you can think truly kind of like rural hunter fisherman lifestyle type country. Or you can take it and run with it as cowboy boots, cowgirl boots, kind of a sweet and sassy Southern belle country, coastal cowgirl country. All of it, all of those different kind of micro niches or styles within country western continue to thrive. If you like some of these ideas, but you're not quite sure exactly how to incorporate them, or you need more examples, of course you can turn to Etsy. But you can always go to social media as well. I know a lot of people are getting their examples or their influence from TikTok, which I don't even use, but I know it could be a big resource for a lot of you who do. Or you can always turn to Pinterest, which is what I really love to use, because a lot of people are pinning ideas. They're making collages now. They're seeing what they like, but they don't necessarily have the product or the design that really motivates them to purchase right away. So you can take what they're collaging together and create a real design out of it that really hits home and makes them click buy now. I would typically try to recap what these trends all were, but this was truly an over the shoulder, everything I'm seeing as I'm seeing it. It might be a little throw spaghetti at the wall, but I promise you, the more of these reports you hear or the more trends that you look at and analyze and categorize for yourself, the more you'll start to see the overlaps and the more you'll be able to take something from column A and column B and blend them together to make them your own. That's the stage I'm kind of at now. Again, I don't have a ton of the graphic design skills, but I know what the data says to make, so I'm trying to find the simplest but most valuable ways to blend them together for my customers. If you happen to have anything in your shop that does hit the mark for any of these categories, but you're not using the keywords for them, I highly encourage you to go and do some keyword research. Again, I use Everbee. I do use eRank for big trend analysis and for niche research, but Everbee has been an incredible tool that will show me exactly what keywords I should be using based on how many customers are searching for each term every month and how many competitors are trying to challenge me with that keyword. So I can find the best balance of high volume, low competition to get my products in front of my competitors. And finally, the Etsy opportunity that I noticed just a couple of days ago. I could be wrong, this could have been out longer, but considering I am on Etsy every single day in 4 or 5 different shops, I just started noticing this. So it has to be relatively new, and it is now. We've always had this most loved at the top. This is often showing you either things that you've liked recently, something that Etsy suggests to you, something that you've favorited. This is really trying to push what they know is doing really well for you or similar shoppers to you. But this section, personalize these finds. I have never seen this section before. And you can see that they have dedicated an entire row to it. So now if I'm searching for PNG, not only does Etsy show me what they want on my very top row, they're also taking over my second row, which is now beyond the middle of the page. Etsy has now dictated its own first 2 rows of categories before I even get to see the first thing I wanted to. And even those are ads. So actually, technically, this entire first page has been curated by Etsy in one way or another. But what's important about this is that if you look at the PNGs I'm looking at, none of these actually seem to be personalizable. Most of these are just digital download images, or at least they seem to be on the front end. But they are getting a separate highlight as personalizable items on Etsy, which means that we know people turn to Etsy for customized and personalized items. If you listen to any pro, they will tell you that's the way that you're going to increase sales. That's the way you'll be able to stand out. That's always going to be a way you can add value to your customer. But when I look at this and I say, how are these folks getting in front of this personalize these finds? And you click through, they have truly turned on the back end of their shop, the option that says can be personalized. Most of us would say no for something that we're not going to go in and customize ourselves, but they have turned on yes, can be personalized. And Etsy, as of right now, doesn't seem to care whether this specific item is actually personalized or says custom on it or is being changed up for customer to customer. Right now, because this is so new, it seems like they are simply seeing that personalization is checked off as a yes and giving this listing a brand new opportunity to be at the very front of the page. And we can see that, for example, this one says, add your personalization. Do you understand that you are purchasing a digital file and that no physical item will be sent? Now, they looks like they may have copied and pasted the description for their skinny Tumblr listings, but still, you see that they are not even actually saying you can customize this. It's not even saying, do you want me to customize? It is simply saying, please click yes, I confirm, I know what I'm purchasing. So do you see how, without actually changing anything, this listing and saying it can be personalized without having to personalize it, at least for now, I'm not saying that's a best practice. I'm not saying that's going to last forever. I don't know if it'll last past this week, but it is something very interesting that I haven't seen or heard anybody else talk about yet. And I'm going to be very curious about how that plays out over the next few months. I thought I should share that with you because, again, anything you can make personalized, you should. If there's something you typically don't personalize, but you could, or you don't think people would want personalized, but you could offer it in a similar way to this, you might want to explore that. I would maybe be a little more upfront or clearer on how you would actually make a change to it as opposed to just typing in, yes, I confirm. But I haven't seen any direction on that from Etsy in the seller handbook one way or another. Now, that is truly it. I have tried to cut myself off several times already because I really, truly can keep going forever. I love this side of it. And hopefully that means that you love hearing about it because I'd love to spend more time helping you along the way. But all of these are live time, February 26th, 2025 in the morning, happening right now, popping up on my screen. So if you are catching this shortly after it is released, I highly encourage you to go make some designs as quickly as possible and get them out to market. It's only 20 cents to throw some testers there. So instead of going and buying a $5, $6 coffee, if you commit all that money into throwing them into Etsy listings today or within the next few days, just imagine how much more data you could have and hopefully how much more traction and how many more sales. So much information jam-packed into this today, but remember the important thing is not just to listen to the podcast episode, but it is to get home, start creating, and especially these trend talks, implement immediately before the trend really takes off. You don't want to be getting to the train station as the train is pulling away. If you liked this episode and it was really helpful to you, please make sure to share it with a friend. But always make sure that you are subscribed if you're not already, and please leave a review. It would really mean a lot to me and hopefully help reach other sellers who really could use this encouragement, this help, or this kind of behind the scenes coaching and advice as well. Speaking of which, if you want extra resources, I do have a link below for my free ebook, Crafting Your Etsy Empire, which is a great starting point. We'll give you all of the tools you need to make sure that you have a holistic, optimized listing right from the beginning, no matter what stage of Etsy you're at. And if you are interested in potentially having a one-on-one individualized shop audit, or you think you might need some more personalized coaching, maybe some more guidance, specific one-on-one SEO advice, whatever you may need, feel free to reach out to me. I am actually thinking about a couple of different offers I could potentially put together for sellers, but I want to know what's going to actually help you move the needle in your business. So send me a DM or email me. My contact information will be below, and let me know what you could use help with. Let me know. I'd really love to gauge interest in if you need a shop audit, if you need some one-on-one coaching, and I would be happy to help you however I can. If you listened to this episode via podcast and you want to see exactly what listings I was looking at, then jump over to my YouTube channel where I will make sure to have the video of the screenplay so you can see everything I was looking at and see the examples for yourself. And if you're on YouTube and you liked this video, I would love it if you jump over to Etsy and Ecom, wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to subscribe there and check these out. There's going to be a lot of crossover, a lot of continued trends and optimization strategies for your online business in a lot of different segments. So again, so much information. I've had 3 coffees today, but I am always so excited to know that I can just help even one person on their Etsy journey. Thanks again for listening, and I will catch you in the next episode. Goodbye.